Settle in, folks. Roman, Wes, hello, hello. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's Friday, last early morning meeting. And this is our EODR open meeting. So we have, this is what we are calling it now. So let's start with Note 12. This is the Note 12. It's a reminder about our process and policies, including about conduct, privacy, intellectual property rights. You agree to follow them when you participate in the IETF. Please read it carefully. Read the source documents, which the Note 12 refers to. And of course, you can come and talk to us if you have any questions. We are on Meet Echo this time, and we are following all the usual meeting tips. Please log in on Meet Echo. We will do the queuing as well on Meet Echo. Let's see, like especially if we have remote participants, it will be nice, and people are joining in. So let's follow the same set of processes that we do for every other meeting, both for in-person and remote. And I'll pass it on to Karen.
Oh, you're right. We do need to use the mic. So we wanted to do, because this changed a little bit on the agenda, we just kind of wanted to give a really quick EODIR context. Basically, EODIR, what was originally a set of teams, EduTeam, mentoring, and some various uncoordinated outreach efforts were organized into a directorate under the Gen area. Here's the 3 audiences that we listed. The one thing that you will note here is that it is specifically focused on IETF participants and leadership. So outreach and things like that beyond the IETF are in the purview of the IAB. And what we actually do is coordinate a set of independent and related activities. You're not very effective if you come here and say you should do this, because we will say, well, that's great. Who's going to do it? It might be you. And finally, it has been a name change, and it's been in place now for a while, but I still get questions about it. EMODIR to EODIR, it was strictly a name change. It was not a change in scope or charter or anything like that. What has traditionally been the EODIR side meeting here is now the EODIR open meeting, and that's to put it officially on the agenda, as opposed to a side meeting, which is not officially IETF, not an official IETF activity. This is an official IETF activity.
Yeah, so let's have a quick round of introductions from everyone, and we can do the in-person from that side first and then go online.
I'm Alice Russo. I'm part of the RFC Production Center.
I'm Jean Mahoney, also RFC Production Center.
I'm Michelle Cotton with the Secretariat.
Do you want to introduce yourself?
Oh, I'm the first one? Sorry.
Yeah, come on.
Still waking up. Hi, everyone. My name is Lucy Yan. I'm an independent consultant in digital identity, digital credential. This is my first IETF. Really enjoying it. Thanks, everyone.
Welcome.
Hi, I'm Jay Daly, IETF Executive Director.
Ketan Talaulikar, Routing Area Director.
So Deb Cooley, Sec AD.
Rich Sauls, longtime new participant trainer and general member of the IETF.
Jean-François Guéral, the IO Foundation.
Santosh Balakrishnan, general participation at the IETF.
Roman Dinidu, Gen AD, and I wanted to thank the chairs for kind of explaining what we had done here administratively, and this is just our attempt and my attempt to make sure that all the Gen area activities can be better seen, better understood, and then we connect the official things we have into the official processes and make sure everything is widely accessible by using things like Meet Echo and making sure the minutes are available, because this, like many of our directives, are an important component of what we do here at the IETF. Yeah.
Mia Kulevind, liaison from the IAB.
Karen O'Donoghue, co-coordinator of EODIR.
Dhruv Dhodi, co-coordinator for EODIR.
Kodak, just come here because I saw it was on the agenda.
That's just fine. IETF, Wes Hardiker, IETF Guides Lead.
Oren Kamari, IAB.
and eat some more coffee. Whoa, it's all fun.
Andrew Campling, new participant enthusiast.
Flo Driscoll, Sisters Co-Lead.
Colin Waller, UK NCSC.
Laura Nugent, Secretariat.
Any of the remote folks, please come in and introduce yourself. I see Carolina, for instance.
Hi, everyone. This is Carolina, joining from Barcelona. I'm a co-chair of Sisters. Good to see everyone.
Thank you for being here. Anyone else? I don't see. Everybody else seems to be in room. Yes, so let's start with the agenda. Oh, we have Avery. Could you come to the mic and introduce yourself?
Avery Doria just came to watch.
So this is our agenda. Any additions? Anybody has any other item they want to talk before we start? No. So let's start with the sisters update.
Cool. Hi. So yeah, I'm one of the co-leads of Sisters. So is Carolina, who's online, who maybe will appear. I guess I wanted to cover kind of two main things today. One was obviously the events we ran at IETF 124, and the other was the kind of feedback that we got from the event we ran at IETF 123. So I'll do that first because it's chronological. Carolina, do jump in if there's anything you think I'm missing. So I guess we covered at the last EODIR that at IETF 123 we ran a kind of workshop for Sisters members and also for IETF leadership, except it wasn't a workshop because that's got a specific meaning. It was a Bridging Perspectives event. So the idea here was to bring together members of like the IESG and the IAB and the LLC and members of Sisters to share perspectives, build understanding, kind of come up with ideas. We got feedback from that event following the meeting. And we shared that now with the people who attended and also with the Sisters mailing list. The feedback was kind of overall positive. I think most people kind of had a good hour session and appreciated the opportunity for those two groups to mix. But I think was more mixed in terms of some of the kind of sharing perspectives piece. Perhaps the content was not quite right for the audience. I think Karen put this really well yesterday when she said that the event was an experiment. It wasn't something we'd done in quite a long time. And as an experiment, it was 100% successful. But we'll think a bit about kind of how to take it forward. Carolina, is there anything you wanted to add on that?
No, Flo, I think that's perfect. Thank you for that summary.
So then, yeah, at IETF 124, we had two Sisters events, which were both quite low-key because we'd done such a structured thing last time. We had the breakfast first thing on Monday morning. I'm not very good at estimating how many people were in a room, and I don't count, but I think maybe like 30 or so people were there. It felt well attended. People were kind of mixing really nicely. And then yesterday lunchtime, we had another event, which again, I guess probably about 40 people, was primarily networking, but we also had a discussion about the kind of Sisters Charter and what we wanted to do as a group going forwards. The agreement there was we'll have to kind of talk about it on the Sisters mailing list for people who weren't at the meeting. But the agreement there was that Sisters' kind of core mission, which is to be here for the people who are attending IETF and to kind of concentrate on retention and improving their experience is what we want to stick with, but that perhaps we can come up with some kind of clearer actions underneath that and maybe some ways of measurement to sort of, do some specific things and see how they're going. So I think that's everything from us, unless Carolina has more or anyone has any questions.
Thank you. Thanks for your update. Thanks for continuing doing amazing work. Michelle, new participants.
Yeah, so for IETF 124, we did all the usual events, activities, and everything went quite well. So just a couple notes. As far as new participant numbers go, new participant total numbers, so remote plus on-site, and it was either their first meeting or they had attended 124. That was 43% of 124's attendees, which I think that's really high. So yeah, we have a lot of new participants, and we have a lot of people who return back for those second, third, fourth meetings, which I think is really awesome. And now that we've had a full year of the revised all-day new participant program, we're going to do a thorough review and see what we want to change, but I actually think what we're doing is right on par. I think just continuing to tweak it, but we'll do some follow-up with Jay and others and see what else we want to do. The Thursday social hour last night was the most leadership I have ever seen at a social hour on Thursday, and I do not know what to attribute that to. Was it cold outside? Was it a hard day and they needed wine? I don't know, but it was really awesome. Looking around the room, every single little group of new participants was talking with leadership. And, there were a couple where new participants were just talking with other fellow new participants. But we've seen this before, but I saw it again this meeting. This class of new participants seemed to really talk with each other and network. And I think it's really fabulous that we're seeing that. So I'll put all the numbers in the notes, but everything was very well attended.
It seemed like the gathering last night was actually a little bit smaller. I seem to remember the one wherever we were last was larger. Do you know the new participant count? Did you try and count?
Numbers were, for the most part, higher than previous events, but Madrid was very, very well attended. So since that's our most recent memory, just in comparison, we had 52 new participants come to the Thursday social in Madrid. Last night we had 35.
Okay, that feels about right. Yeah.
Yeah, but previous Thursday night, looking at the numbers, the European meetings just kind of skew the numbers because better attendance. But yeah, any questions?
Okay. So I shared this feedback with you, Michelle. If it would be good to gather the areas of interest of the new participants, like SEC area, art, wit, routing, and maybe pass our mugshots to them. That way, it would make it more efficient and faster to connect.
Yeah,
I found like very few routing new participant, which was a bit worrying for me, but
yet we found somebody for
yes,
you.
thank you for that.
Yeah, we're going to brainstorm some ideas about how we can do that differently. With the guides program, they do say what their interests are, so they get connected with somebody in the areas that they're hopefully going to participate in. Also with quick connections, maybe trying to find a way to better identify areas so people know who to go to. So yeah, thank you.
So just to add, one of the things that we did this time was look at the post-lunch parts of the new participant program on Sunday, because we had a relatively largest drop-off of people after lunch. We had a presentation that was described as advanced topics, and we changed that. That's presented by Leslie Daigle or Harold Alverstrand. We had previously discussed it with them and added a slide about the power of the community. And this time we changed the entire presentation to be power of the community, so that it talks about how it's the community that creates and builds the IETF, and some of the parts within that, such as disputes and appeals and other things, and how they're handled within the community. Revising both the title and the content of the agenda. And I think that we haven't got the data yet, but I think that seemed to work much better. People stayed for it. They were interested. It was a nice thing to finish off with. So that worked that way. We have we do try to make sure we either rotate the presenters or have some backups of presenters. For Shenzhen, we're probably unlikely to do much rotation, but we'll see. And then for Vienna, we're going to look at a bit more rotation. So we will probably say, for example, have Sean Turner do bronze one. We may well have someone do my one that I do at the front and these type of things, so that we can just have some more faces come in and have backups for us to do it as well for those presentations. Okay.
So in quick connections, like we have name tags in our aid, like we're like sec ADs like on it. Well, I mean the yellow buttons on there.
Only yellow. Yeah.
Maybe that's not enough. You could have them self-identify on their whatever their name tags are when they come in, because you have something that you do with them.
Those little buttons were actually for experienced IETFers, but I might be nixing them because I found them people aren't like, they're with their clothes and their badges turning, like it's
true. It's true.
Looking for maybe a little something different. So
Yeah, and you don't want to pigeonhole them into an area. I mean, heaven forbid you get pigeonholed into routing.
Yeah, you want you want to make it easy, but also
to talk to other people
a little more
too, right?
welcoming. Yeah. So.
So chatting to some of the new participants, I think overall the sort of feedback from the program was really positive. So that's been very well received from anecdotal sort of discussions with people. Also, their perception of the culture, and I'm including some sort of returning participants, if you like, who'd had maybe very limited contact a while ago, is it's a lot kinder than it was. So progress is being made in how people are sort of interacting generally, and there's a less open hostility to people perhaps who have slightly outside the accepted wisdom views on things. So generally, everything moving in the right direction, which is really good.
For those of you who haven't seen, Paul Routers wrote yesterday that he was talking to a new participant at the drinks last night, and they said he said to them, "Oh yes, I remember we talked at the last IETF," and they replied, "No, this is my first IETF. We talked on Sunday." So
same thing.
So I also, when I talked to the new participants, I also asked them about the program, if they attended and if they liked it usually. And I think generally the feedback is positive. I got 2 times the reply that they felt it was too long. So I think we went from too short to too long, or there's probably no right amount. But then I also talk a lot about if it's your first meeting, usually where to go, what are the right sessions, what the different characteristics of the session and whatever. And the new participant talked to me and said he didn't know that and learned a lot during the week, which other sessions to go to. And I was like, was it not covered in the program? And he was like, I left early or whatever. But maybe the idea would be to actually set it up in the way that people can get all the information they need about a meeting at the very beginning, and then only if you're interested in more depth of the structure, whatever. So you have a choice. You have some breakpoints where you can actually leave. I don't know how it's structured.
So in the very first slide, we explained to people that this is a long agenda and that it is designed so that people don't have to do it all in one day, that many people may find it better to come back and do bits of it over multiple meetings as they do things, or possibly repeat things, because then those things will slowly come together for them. And we don't do the interesting topics bit because the diversity of things that people are interested in is so large that it would just be difficult to cover all of that set of things. So, but we do send out an email. Michelle sends something out that points to things that people have written. I think the IAB writes something and Greg writes something that gives people some of that information.
Yeah, so actually the pitch is not the interesting topic pitch, it's the easy to understand pitch. This is the meetings where you can go to without having read all the drafts. That's kind of the important information they need, I think.
Which conflicts with so many new participants saying that they really want to read drafts before they go,
Yeah, so,
right?
but I mean, like, they won't read it on Sunday, right?
I think
So
I
at
am-
that point, they have already read them, and they will go to the sessions where they know the drafts. But those people who just come here and were like, I want to have a look, they are a little bit
Yeah.
lost still.
And I think that that's where the guides can really help kind of focus in on
Yeah, I
where they
wanted to
should be
say
going.
maybe there is a way to kind of give them kind of a one-on-one guiding session without a guide, where you just like talk to them and quickly ask. That's what I usually try to do. Ask, what's your interest? Okay, you should go to these sessions and do this like on a one-to-one basis. Yeah, I don't know.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Let's talk about outreach, and I'm covering that. Uh, yes. So these are some of the outreach activities that we kind of did between the last ITF and now. We had RIPE and CAPEF event. Those are in European region. And we had one from the IAB side doing a panel, which went really well. There was also Eric organizing in the cooperation working group in RIPE panel, which had a mix of ITF participants as well as people from the past who had been active in the ITF, but not so much right now, operators, all talking in general what led them to ITF and how, as an operator, they have benefited from participating at ITF. So I think both the panels went pretty well, and we got good feedback from that. We were also at ICANN. This was at this time mainly focusing at the leadership level, at the board level, as well as ICANN organization. But we will continue to do some things more with the community, and we are discussing ideas of going to the various different stakeholders and what should be our targeted messaging to the each stakeholder within the ICANN community. There were things in LACNIC and Trinidad, ISOC regions as well, which went well. Again, focusing on the operator parts as well as increasing regional participation. I did a bunch of events in India, which were mostly about the School of Governance in India, as well as their Youth IGF and India IGF events. So these are just a snapshot of some of the things. There are way more. Last time, if you remember, we heard from folks who did things before the for the China, before preparing for the Shenzhen meeting. We have other folks who have done outreach. So this is, just to clarify, not just an activity for the leadership. It's anyone within our community can come, and EODR is here to provide you support on how to do the outreach. So some of the ideas related to that, we have all our resources in a wiki. We have a standard ITF overview presentations that could be used as a starter deck for you to tailor. And it's usually tailoring it for the community that you are going to always helps. And you could get some examples of that as well listed in our wiki. So look, which is like, categorized towards whether this is towards IG audience, internet governance audience, general audience. Good. Yeah. General audience or students, researchers. So I think our messaging, at least the starting part, is all the same, but then we can have more targeted messages towards people that we are reaching to, and whether we are just passing information, whether we are inviting them to participate in ITF, those are the various different things that we do, and all of this is listed on the outreach. Just our aim with this wiki was making it easier for people to do this, and usually it works best when we have cross pollination. If you are already participating in some other organization, just use our starting deck and go and talk about ITF in that context as well. So that's our hope with this wiki. Any questions?
Not necessarily a question, more of a comment. One of the things, somebody I talked to early in the week had mentioned that they had done a presentation on the IETF and didn't have resources. I think it might be useful for us to do a short email more broadly that says these resources are available and please make use of them, so that people can use them. And because they couldn't find them. One of the things that when Dhruv and Greg and I had this conversation earlier in the week, one of the first things Greg did was move the resources to the top of the IETF outreach page instead of the bottom, so people could see it at the top. So anyway, I just think we can take it offline to do a little bit of brainstorming on how we want to do it, but I think a more a broader distribution message about the availability of this specific set of resources would be helpful.
Yeah, I think I completely agree. We did in ITF 122 this thing to working group chairs. I think this message that we sent to working group chairs was also very useful. Something along that line we can add at the bottom. Oh, by the way, for outreach resources, this is your right contact for you to. Very good idea. Thank you. Any other comment?
Yeah, I had one comment. At the hackathon, we actually discussed like, hey, it would be nice if we can get more students in there. So as a kind of first meet with IETF in a way, so a low threshold way to get young people interested in that work, maybe. So do you have anything special on that? So for the IETF meetings and the hackathon around it to
Yes, on your wiki you will find there are a few presentations, even with the hackathon chairs have done in the past, where they have specifically targeted this. And anytime we go to academia and educational institute, even in events that we have done in India, we have highlighted that, like that's a very good entry point. And one more thing when people ask is like, how do I start your ITF journey? It's always going to be different for everyone. And our main aim is just to tell them like, all of this is valid, whether you write drafts, whether you review drafts, whether you implement them, and contribution to ITF is much bigger than like the final product that people see, which is just the RFCs. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, but we don't have any specific way to reach out to academic institutions and be like, there's going to be an IETF somewhere near you. You might want to send some people. Maybe because I don't know how we would.
IETF does some outreach, especially on this thing. I've seen them, but they cover like an IETF meeting is happening, and as well as carry the outreach, the hackathon.
Yeah, but that's generally to individual institutions, right? There's no, hey, if you're doing STEM stuff, you might want to let your students know there is an IETF thingy, because I don't think there is such a vehicle for that. That's cool.
Sorry, I think Greg's not here, but he does have some local university outreach contact prior to IETF meetings. I don't know the details of it.
Just a couple of thoughts, just on the sort of academic outreach. I wonder whether there's been any discussion with the IRTF, just a sort of prompt outreach through the IRTF, in case some of them hadn't thought of it. More generally, though, certainly in meetings I've been in where there has been outreach, like most recently RIPE, the mere fact that the IETF turned up visibly, even that was well received, sent a very positive message and prompted some discussions. So it's sort of in terms of perception changing, does make a difference, even if it's not an immediate effect. It just pushes out a much more sort of welcoming and interested, engaging message. So it's good.
Yes, the Working Group Chairs Forum was held as usual on Wednesday. We did have a pretty full agenda this time. There's a list of all the topics that we covered. There was no we need to go forward with specific training. There was no specific actions out of it. There was a lot of discussion. There was a couple of hot topics, and the continuing conversations is around the usage of the note well and working group processes, required versus available. And I don't remember, can you go forward one slide?
No, there's only one slide.
There's only one slide, okay, so it is the next. So I think I put this actually down in tutorials, but one of the things I did want to mention was there was an email that went to the chairs list in advance from the Secretariat that had pointers to a bunch of resources. I thought that was a very helpful message, a very helpful email for a set of short reminders of, here's pointers to all the various places where the resources are. So we had talked some about that in the interim that we'll talk about a little bit later, but I do think that was well received.
So that was a plan, right? To send it out periodically to the working group chairs list and then to send it to new working group chairs.
Yeah, that's what we discussed in that interim. I just didn't, I wasn't sure if that email was a result of that plan or not. If it was, that's fantastic.
I believe so. I mean,
Oh.
it was Greg and,
I know it was Greg and,
can't think of her name. Shoot.
right,
No, not Stephanie. Cindy. That's it.
probably Cindy, yeah.
Yeah, it was Greg and Cindy.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's that point Greg in the right direction and just let him go. Right.
Yeah, no, yeah. That was really good. I didn't connect it to this is what we're going to send to new working group chairs, but it's the same kind of reminders that even older working group chairs forget where stuff
Right,
is.
because processes change, right? And so
Right.
if you didn't get it to begin with, then
Yeah, exactly.
like the reminder doesn't hurt.
Right. Oh, we can call that a win.
Nope.
Just want to final comment. I did more proactively reach out to both working group chairs and Jay about agenda topics, and I think we should probably continue to do that going forward. We probably put a little bit too much in this agenda and sort of rushed through it, but lesson learned.
Probably just as well in some cases.
Generally went well. We had one person that email went to his spam folder, but we sorted that out and he finally got matched. I think Warren never heard from your participant, but we made 23 matches total, 3 of which were remote. Heard good things, from people, but other than that, not much to say. It's higher than average count by a little bit, but still within typical averages. So.
Any questions for guides?
I will say, Michelle and I have been working hard to try and do earlier and earlier matches, and I think that that's been good but difficult because participants don't sign up until late, and we've done everything we can to move that earlier and earlier, and positive results, I think, but it's still hard to do.
Are there any things that we pass on to guides as well, like feedback in any way?
So one of the things Michelle and I were actually just talking about last week, I think, was we would like to reach out to the guides after this and thank them, because we really don't, send enough thank you notes. And, it is critical. All of the participants I've ever talked to love the fact that they sort of have a one-on-one relationship. And to Maria's point earlier, that's exactly where they get guidance on the things they should do and the groups they should go to. I know one of the person that I helped was brand new to the IETF, and he was very appreciative of the fact that I'm telling him specific groups that he will find of interest that he can follow. But we are going to try and reach out to the guides to see how things went with them and actually, get their feedback more directly, and more importantly, thank them for their work, because we don't do that enough.
And after Madrid, I did contact both the guides and the new participants and did a kind of like a mini survey. Wasn't a fill-in survey, but just asking a couple questions. So we'll continue that and hopefully get some trends and know what is worth looking at changing.
Just one quick thing. I was matched this time, and similar to the thing about working group chairs, I think sort of a short set of suggestions that you can provide to guides for things that they might consider. One of the things I did this time, which worked out really well, was I talked to my match person at the beginning of the week, and then I said, and we can meet on Thursday and talk about how the week went and any remaining questions you have. And we had a really wonderful conversation yesterday afternoon about, a list of questions that she had by the end of the week. So just reminders of things that guides can, suggestions for specific things they might do with their guide, with their, what do you call them?
So have you read the email lately? Because I think most guides don't, right? Because why would you read it? There is a list in the email, as well as a suggestion. Here's the things that you might talk about. I did
read the email when I got it, but that was weeks ago.
and in there it also says, if possible, meet at the end of the week too, or maybe you can meet up at the end of the week to see how it went.
Well, it's one of the challenges with email is the longer the message is, the lower the probability that the reader is going to get all the way to the bottom.
Well aware and equally as guilty. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
You could send an email on Thursday to the guides and say like, maybe remember to meet with your mentee again.
We definitely could. We've had some pushback that it's easier in the weekend before or at the start of the week, and everybody is so busy, during the week that they have a harder time. So there's a trail off. And like anytime we've tried to make an assignment on Monday, people are like, no, that's just not, that's not possible. If I don't have an assignment by Sunday, just don't do it. So good in theory. And so sending a note just to the guides and not the participants might be the way to do that, because you don't want to put the expectation of the participant, but hinting to the guides that it wouldn't be bad.
Do we invite the guides to the newcomer social? Maybe that's a good meetup point.
I think we have in the past, right? I mean, they've been told they can come, but I mean, really, we've tried to do leadership more lately.
I think that's something to ponder. I mean, a lot of the guides are the leadership, but yeah, something to ponder. I'll throw it on the list.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that the quick connections has been almost one-to-one with leadership and participants. So, I mean, not quite that much, but I'm not sure how much more we can handle, experts in the room. So I think we'd run into that issue as well.
I'm in the queue next. One thing which I did with my assignee was, I think the emails usually during the IETF weeks are problematic. So I kind of asked, like, what's the best way? Do you want to connect? And I also link them to IETF Slack, because that would be a good way for them to find other IETFers as well. So I think asking them early on, what is your preferred asynchronous communication mechanism? And some people would be like, if you're asking somebody in India, your answer would be totally different. Everybody is very much okay giving their phone numbers away with WhatsApps, and some places they are not. But we give them to guides how they want to be connected, and not guides, as in the people who are asking for guides. And during the week, for instance, somebody pointed out, oh, you told me about attending this meeting, but there is no agenda. And that message coming out in a Slack and then me poking was much more easier than if it was in a whole list of a long email collected during IETF week.
Have you read the email lately? Because it does talk about, do you want to figure out a way to communicate, Slack, Zoom, all of those things. I don't think we list something you just said. So WhatsApp isn't listed. That's probably a good thing to add.
Yeah, so I think that Zoom thing was very good for the starting thing. I was thinking more during the week if you need like a very quick tip on things. And sometimes people were telling me that they are interested in this topic. So I was like, oh, by the way, this meeting is happening right now. Go there. And it was just much more seamless, easier interaction than if you were doing this over email.
I know some people exchange phone numbers. I know some people do get connected in Slack, but we could try and promote that better somehow. Is probably a good point. So.
Yeah, I mean, we're copied on the emails and we see people talk to each other on what the best method of communicating is. So they do, most of them do that. Just a point of reference for Quick Connections, because you mentioned that earlier. There were 72 new participants at Quick Connections, 37 experienced IETFers. Pretty good ratio.
Do we have a new participant Slack channel?
I'm sorry, what?
A Slack channel? We could create a new participant Slack.
A Slack channel?
Yeah.
I don't know about Slack channel.
It doesn't have
We have
to
a
be
Zulip
official.
one.
And we could even invite people and then they could accept it or not, right?
Let me think about it, but the problem is then what do we do when they cease to be new participants? Do we throw them off the Slack channel? There's some...
Yeah, the unofficial Slack, not the IETF LLC one, but Jay, that's new participants 124, just like we do with new attendees, right?
So for my informal, that sort of cohort of newish participants, not part of the guides program for the avoidance of doubt, something I do is to send them a WhatsApp message each morning with, here's some suggested things you might be interested in, which we obviously would have discussed prior to the meeting, but actually sending stuff to do today if you've got gaps, I think is also helpful. Admittedly, I did put EODIR on their list today, and I know none of them have made it here, but that's maybe a different issue.
I was just going to say, I don't know, many of you maybe even talked to them. There's a cohort of 16 folks from Brazil who got funding to go to meetings for 3 years. And they were fabulous, just engaged. We had one in the sisters program, or 2 or 3 actually in the sisters events too. And I don't know, it's really kind of cool to see this group of 16 people going through it together. So I don't know, just letting you know.
Let's move to the last topic, tutorials. 1 second. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I wanted to change the name of this, but since Greg had posted the agenda and wasn't here to approve my change, I left it as tutorials. But what this really is for this time was we at IETF 123, we had a big conversation in working group chairs about GitHub, and as a result, we had a virtual interim meeting on the 17th of September, and it was primarily a brainstorming session around what the problem were and what some of the possible improvements could be. The GitHub, we identified like the 2 sets of people primarily with GitHub experience, those who know how to use it and those who only use it for the IETF and kicking and screaming kind of usage. And then you have regular contributors, occasional contributors, and reviewers, and then the leadership who need to like manage working groups and things like that. Next slide. Outcome from the meeting was there were 3 specific things that were identified that we could probably do in the near term, sets of material that we could look at. And one was organizing your workspace, so for working group chairs, and Rich has some starting content on that, and we haven't made much progress. We haven't identified what we're going to do with that moving forward. Better pointers to Martin Thompson's tooling and authoring, and then also reviewing how to make a pull request. And then I don't know exactly the extent of this, but I know that Greg said you and Deb were already working on some documentation that would address some of this.
Yeah, it's in progress.
Right, in progress. So amongst the 3 of us, we had this long discussion about whether we had 1 outcome or 3 outcomes. And so what I came down to was we had 3 cases that we could address, and that the only actual actionable outcome, or the only people who stepped forward to do anything, were Greg and Deb. So we have some materials that we think we could improve upon. I think one of the things that we need to be cognizant of here, and I think we're hearing it even like in Wes's comment, did you read the email, is that there's a lot of information out there. I think the problem is not necessarily that we don't have the information. The problem is finding it in a clear and concise manner, because, I'm sure it's there somewhere, but when you're trying to find it, and if it takes too much time, you give up. So I think there's still some more work to be done here. We don't have a specific action plan related to that. And then this is where I put this, was the other actionable item discussed was a welcome to the chair role. And then my side note was that the working group chair email was good. Yay. But it turns out those are actually the same thing. So with that, I think it was a useful discussion in September. And we don't have any concrete plans on the table beyond what Greg and Deb are already working on moving forward. So if there's anybody who wants to step forward and take a look at some of this, you're welcome to do so, because as we said at the very beginning of this meeting, this is a coordination group about work that other people are doing. So telling us we should do something was not as helpful as saying, I will go do this thing. And that's about it. Any questions on the virtual interim?
Jean?
Just a comment on Martin Thompson's repo template. I've shared my documentation with him. He's done a first pass review, and next steps are I will do a pull request on his docs in that repo template. So The documentation will be attached to it.
Okay. That's related to GitHub. One of the questions I had this week was specifically around, does everything happen on the mailing list? And that question is yes, but with respect to GitHub. And so I think we're still not really answering that question about the relationship between mailing lists and GitHub. Just throwing that out there for people in leadership to ponder in their spare time.
So in the DNS restructuring, thing that I'm trying to lead, one of the questions that I asked on the mailing list this week was, how far behind are you in email? And the average was 1 week. And do you track, GitHub issues? And the prevailing answer was no.
Yeah, unfortunately. Jay?
While I think this is useful, this type of work, I do think that we've got to be careful that this is a relatively small group for requirements gathering, and it would be better to have a broader conversation about what we need for these type of things, in order to make sure that we get other people's, points of view and those type of things. So, for some part of it, sorry. Well, what kind of documentation, what type of tutorials and things we need. I think, for example, what working group chairs need is a discussion to be had with working group chairs as well. What type of thing authors need is a discussion to be had with, maybe through the RPC open meetings or through the RFC interest working group. I'm not saying any of this is wrong. It's just that it needs to be, I think, next step is to take it broader to understand those things, because otherwise I think we're a relatively limited, small set of people, and we might not capture all the things that people need and requirements.
And by this group, you mean specifically this room, right? The EODIR. I agree with that, and I think part of what started this was the working group chairs discussion, where people were saying you need to do a tutorial on GitHub, and then people were like, well, what goes in that tutorial? I think there's a lot more work to form that tutorial before we try to, whoever does it.
Yeah, for the GitHub stuff specifically, can we actually, because I'd be happy to help, but somebody needs to tell me what to do. Like, what's the piece that you actually need, what's missing? Can we maybe just have a small design team, like have a set of 5-6 people who meet like on a monthly basis until the next meeting or whatever, and try to make some progress?
Rich?
Yeah, I just want to mention that Cindy Morgan and I had some email and whatever the video conference system we used was, meeting about it. And so that's why some of the content that I had made its way into the working group chairs list. And our focus, or my focus, was primarily on what the Secretariat does and what the working group chairs will need to do on an ongoing basis. And I don't think we'll have, just that we made some stuff happened, and yes, it needs to be picked back up again.
Yeah, and I think we also started out this session to be like what a gap analysis is, and I think what we've discovered is there's still some gaps, and there's work to be done, but there's probably other things going on as well. So I just don't. I guess I'm really reluctant to say we need to generate a ton more content, because we have so much content as it is, and I want the Cliff Notes version of things.
So I think what we need is we need the content in some form, but we also need a strategy to communicate this out in multiple ways. That's what we need.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely correct in that the content may be there, but it's hard to find. I struggle with this all the time. It's on some wiki somewhere. I don't even know.
So I think on GitHub we have content gaps. I don't think
sure
we
you
have
do. everything documented. The question is, where is it?
Yeah, where is it?
I mean, there's a lot of assumptions that are made when somebody becomes a new chair or when somebody walks in about like where things are. Well, just go to the chairs wiki. I'm like, what the hell's the chairs wiki? Yeah, so there's a lot of that. And then when you get there, it's got to be concise and short, because nobody's got time to read 40 pages of gobbledygook.
Right.
Like, nobody's got time for that.
I think for GitHub, we actually need some training sessions or whatever. For GitHub, it's like so much easier if you have somebody who sits next to you and just tells you click here, click here, click here, and then you're done.
Then you learn it that way? It doesn't scale. Do you learn it that way? And it does not scale.
It doesn't scale at once, but if you do it over a long time, I think it can scale.
I think to
Yeah.
some extent, the other problem we have is when we do something like GitHub training, like we did for working group chairs with Martin Thompson, the problem was he's an expert in it. And so things that are super obvious to him, he goes click, 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 and the people at the back of the room are like,
No. So yeah, actually, what you need is like when you are at the point that you want to write a draft, and you actually want to use it. Not only somebody explains it to you, and then
So
you do it like
that's-
2 months
but-
later. Then
so
you
that's
need
why
somebody.
we had 3 different categories of users, right? So there's people that are authors, there's working group chairs, and there's just people that want to be able to file an issue and make a PR. Like those are 3 different classes of people, and not everybody walks in the room knowing how to do any of that.
Yes, but I think what I want to say is that like if you have one of these users, if you have them at the point where they actually want to do something, they say like, I come to the IETF, I want to be active in the quick working group.
So-
I need to understand what's happening in
So
quick
when
on
I make-
GitHub.
when
Then
I
I
wanna
need to
make a
sit
PR
down with
request,
somebody.
Can I call you?
You can call me if you want
When I
that.
wanna
I'm
make a
happy to help you.
pull
No,
request?
but like just offering this maybe and not everybody will take that opportunity, but at least offering that some people can take it and then more people over time.
It's
Right.
just, it's
As,
tricky.
as I glance over, we actually are using a queue and it's getting longer. So, Deb. No, you're.
You are already on, sir.
Go ahead, Roman.
You are on the top of the queue.
Yeah, I just wanted to make an observation, having just talked to the working group chairs forum and discussed it at the plenary, where the working group chairs were kind of pretty clear about there's normative guidance on what the process is, and there's talking about tools. And I observe we're just talking about GitHub, and like we're kind of saying it. To my knowledge, we have no normative workflows that we're describing, and I just want us to be very kind of cautious here because there's a lot of snowflake activities. How working groups do it is sometimes bespoke and is slightly different than everything else. So as we put out guidance, I would want to make sure that we don't confuse the participants that there is exactly one way to do it, because they will then be burned as they engage in a working group that says, no, like we do it exactly. I mean, when you put an issue in, did you forget that the second line of the issue needs to be highlighted green? I'm giving an absurd kind of example because there, as far as I know, no single workflow that satisfies all ways in which GitHub is used. And so I just got to be, I think, careful as we talk about it, and as the working group chairs remind us, careful about how normative this guidance really is.
Absolutely.
Okay, so for each on the GitHub page for each working group, there is a space at the top where we could put pointers to things which are on the wiki, just to make it easier for people who land on GitHub wanting to know how to use it. They see it right there, and then they can do that.
So we have already, as you know, an authors wiki that's directed towards authors. We have a chairs wiki that's directed towards chairs. The chairs one, though, sort of bleeds almost into a general process wiki because it's a bit broader than that. And we don't have something, and these are educational things, both of these sites. That's where either there is curated educational content or there is self-created educational content goes on to those. We don't have an equivalent for general participants in terms of how they do things and how they process things. And that is something I think that at some point needs some more thought about it to understand what we might do there, whether we migrate the working group chairs one, because ultimately you're simply talking about, participants who migrate through a process of leadership rather than, an entirely separate group, or whether we have to do something else. But it's just something I think that we still need to be thinking through.
Yeah, with the GitHub stuff, I'm concerned we're driving a large number of people away. I've had 3 authors tell me that they don't actually want to author a document because they don't want to deal with the GitHub stuff. David was one of them. And I was like, I can do all of the GitHub stuff, but there was like, and then there's also a number of participants, where I work, who are clearly technical and know how to use GitHub, but look at our process and like, I don't want to deal with this weird thing that you have where you use someone else's template thing and then you have to, I'm just not doing this. So yes, it's possible to make it work, but a lot of people just don't want to and don't feel that they should have to learn to use a whole different tooling system when email used to just work fine. So we seem to be slipping down the slope of GitHub, which I'll point out is a product, not a solution, being used for all sorts of things. Right? It's a commercial product which we happen to be using for free.
Kitan? Are you still in the queue? No, Kitan.
Ketan is done with
Oh,
it's the old queue. Now it's your turn.
Oh, it's my turn. He was Warren. Yeah, and Warren's out of the queue now, so I'm in the queue. The one thing that did come up at in that interim meeting was the idea of maybe doing along the lines of nothing's normative, doing somebody like a help desk type thing. And I know that, like for me personally, the data tracker, the tools guys, the tools people being at the table has been enormously helpful because there's all these little things that, if I'm at home and I run into them, it's like, oh, I can't figure this out. But now I'm just like, oh, this annoyed me in a meeting. Let me run down and ask Jennifer or Robert or whoever happens to be sitting there. And we talked about perhaps staffing a GitHub help desk.
Just to add to that, like I've used that at hackathon a couple of times when I was starting with GitHub because I knew somebody would always know at hackathon how to answer that question. So maybe we can even use hackathon as an opportunity for people to, oh, by the way, there are a bunch of GitHub folks here. If you have any questions, come and ask us during the hackathon time.
So setting aside my personal opinion or prejudice that GitHub is probably the worst possible tool for editing documents, I would suggest it's probably an unintentional but really big barrier to entry to participants if every working group does it differently. For those people that don't use GitHub every day, to then find out that it's slightly different in every working group, as I say, is an enormous barrier to participation. So I think that's worth just giving some thought to, that at least consistency would make a hopelessly unsuitable tool marginally better.
So it is optional.
Yeah, I very much agree with you, kind of, Andrew, and I in general am very supportive of kind of a help desk, but I just really wonder how we're going to thread this needle where I have a question, I work in this working group, and it's staffed by the help desk, and there's going to be great advice provided on how to use a particular proprietary kind of technology in a set of workflows, and that's just not how they do it in the Blue working group. I mean, just until we standardize those workflows, I think at best you can ask generic questions about a proprietary kind of service, or what we need to do is identify, survey all the different workflows. We survey the working groups, better understand what they are, and like we number them, but not at the level of granularity about sometimes of how it's done.
If they say, give the name of the repo, they tell you to have a different repo for every.
But different working groups have bespoke processes on how things are tagged in PRs, how they're tagged and triaged inside kind of the issue tracking, and that drives directly how working groups kind of behave, and it's entirely appropriate for the working group to self-decide. And so I don't know how a help desk would adjudicate that.
So we have, I'm sorry, we have 1 minute. We weren't watching the time. We have 1 minute left.
Yes, go ahead, finish your thought.
So actually in the working groups this is not on. In the working groups I'm working that use GitHub because it's all kind of the same bunch of people, but it's a bunch of working groups. There is kind of a more uniform process now. And all this kind of tagging, whatever, this is mainly for the authors. As a normal participant, you don't need to necessarily look at that at all. So I think there is actually a certain amount of unification, and there is also Slack for doing things that fits the working group, which is what we need as well. But what I actually wanted to say, sorry, is I'd be happy to have like a help desk on the hackathon Saturday. I mean, not everybody is there, but at least a small group for the hackathon is really useful. I'd be happy to sit there and help with that. And the other resource, of course, we should like promote more and talk to other chairs. Like if you are working in a specific working group and you don't understand the process they're using for GitHub, then you should talk to the chairs. And I'm pretty sure they're happy to help you, but we probably need to communicate this on both sides, telling the chairs that they should provide the service and telling the participants that they can actually go to the chairs about this.
Yeah, I think the one thing that this group could do is to do a little bit more encouragement of the fact that there is no normative process. And I think the thing that I find most frustrating is being told I'm doing it wrong. And so I think we need to be a little bit, there is no normative process. There are multiple ways to do it. And until there is a normative process, answer my questions, but don't tell me I'm doing it wrong.
Or when somebody provides a helpful comment on the mailing list, replying with, just put in a PR and I'll look at it, is not really helpful.
Not
Like that
helpful.
drives people away. I've seen a bunch of people submit something on a mailing list with like, have an interesting question, be like, where's the PR? I'm not going to talk to you. And they never come back.
Right. Anyway, so we are over time. Thank you all very much for coming out on a Friday morning. And we ended with an adrenaline-filled conversation. So
And
to start the
keep-
day.
keep using the mailing list and give us ideas, feedbacks on what to do, any interims, any ideas for future discussions. Otherwise, we'll all see you in Shenzhen.
Right. Have a happy Friday.
It's like the. I don't believe that there are directional